Welcome back to Beyond the Surface on Flash 105.5 FM. We trust you're doing great wherever it is you're listening to. Ronke Giwa-Onafuwa, and I did promise you a guest joining me as soon as we're back from that break. And I've got my guest here, who is the team lead at ActHub Africa. They're into accountability and compliance. He is John Oluwafemi. Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. So today is International Democracy Day, as I'm sure you know. I was actually just reading a quote from someone online saying democracy can never be taken for granted. It takes years, sometimes decades to achieve it, or it takes seconds to lose it. They're admonishing Europe to cherish its democratic institutions and always take the lead in promoting and protecting democracy around the world. But when we look at Nigeria, oftentimes people, try to make excuses for Nigeria's democracy and how we're struggling with it, that people who have seemed to be able to get it right have taken decades. So do you think we're being hard on ourselves in Nigeria?
Actually, most time, a lot of people actually paint that narrative, but I'm not a fan of that narrative in the real sense of it.
Why?
Because you don't have to actually go through the same mistake others have gone through. Their mistakes should serve as a kind of example, a kind of roadmap for us. They have gone through all these processes. We have traveled over there. We've seen what they are doing. We have manual. It's just like you buy a new equipment, you have a manual to actually put you through. These are people, although we cannot apply their own situation far back into our own situation, but we can actually adopt and adapt. We adopt the process and we adapt it to our situation. I'm a fan of homegrown solution, and of course, democracy is something that works for us. If you look at each of the regions that we have in Nigeria, we have our way of actually going through the process, governing ourselves. The Den or your empire, we know how we actually go through the process. So these are part of the things that we can actually put together and actually use it to help the real democracy in the system.
Right.
But the situation in Nigeria is not saying that.
Okay, so you do agree that democracy is not a one-size-fits-all, because sometimes we try to just take whatever it is that obviously works somewhere else, and
Yes.
we try to, bring it here. So democracy is not a one-size-fits-all. Do you think that that's where we have been getting it wrong?
Yes, yeah. Okay. Of course, for me, I believe when it comes, we can be creative. We can look at our own situation. The problem Nigeria is having is that we don't actually look at our own realities, and our leaders, they are sometimes, I don't want to use the word that is too strong. We are lazy when it comes to formulating policies. We don't sit down to do a research that is homegrown. Whatever you do that is actually not in your own context will never work for you. A situation whereby we know our diversity. When we want to come up with policy, when we want to do whatever we want to do, democracy is all about, it has some standing points, and these standing points must be put into context whenever we are coming up with whatever we are coming up. Like, for example, we'll talk about access to information. We'll talk about good justice. We'll talk about, civic space, freedom of civic space. We'll talk of media, giving room for media, These are part of the things that when we want to come up with whatever we want to come up with, we need to put them into context, in the right perspective. So that things will actually work for us. So, in the case of Nigeria, we actually forget most of these things. Our democracy is young, in the real sense of it, is young compared to other nations. But a situation whereby we have that situation on our hand, we still need to understand that we need to allow all these footstands of democracy to thrive. Like the media. Yes, so that all these things will work. But with the situation that we have presently, it's not about this government alone. We have had the same experiences in the past government. But I think we have involved of those in this very government. We have had situation of media being stifled, the situation of media. We have had situation whereby protest is becoming a criminal act. in the real sense of it, raising your voice is becoming something that you actually need to think 10 times before you can actually go into it, So these are part of the things that I think the government would do well to actually look at our situation, because we have tendency as an Africa to be dictatorial in the real sense of it. So, and if democracy must work, we need to liberalize all these food stands. So in order to be able to curb that tendency that is in us. So I think that's part of the homegrown solution that we actually need to develop to actually make our democracy work in the real sense of it.
Right. When it comes to making democracy work, you mentioned you started trying to stifle the media, and government sometimes often has issues with taking criticism. What do you think they're afraid of? That obviously, when it comes to what is wrong in obviously taking advice or listening to the pulse of the people, what do you think the government is afraid of when people start to
actually, I think we use the word government loosely, because when it comes to the government, we are the government. We are actually the government. So this is where the problem comes in. The people does not see themselves as part of government, So it becomes a problem when some people see some people up there, And
well, isn't that what we have? Where it feels like some people, so you can't feel the part of something when you're not included. And I think that a big problem as well.
I think the problem has been that, let me quickly paint a scenario for you. Now, a situation in Nigeria, we have three major tribes, When it comes to the Igbo, let me just call them the East, or let me just call them the East. They believe in business. And most times, the issue of governance is not really their primary target, And for the Yorubas too, we believe in, if you are not disturbing me, I don't want to. If I'm not disturbing you, don't disturb me. We have that attitude. But some other tribe, they believe in, let's be there. We can do this. We can actually do this. So now, if you look at it very well, there is major concept called being active citizen.
Right.
When you are active citizen, all these things, these footprints that we are talking about, government cannot uphold all those things on their own. It is the citizen that will uphold them. Like when it comes to media, you are part of the media, the fourth regime of the society, of course. So you are part of those people that upholds that particular place. When it comes to asking questions from government, in the civil society, of course, we lead when it comes to that. Asking questions, protecting human rights of the people, those are part of the things that we stand for. And of course, government cannot do that. There is no way you will do an exam and mark it yourself. That's why it is important, it is expedient, it is salient that the people, the people should see themselves as part of government. And coming to the people in government themselves, there is no way you can get into the back door and expect them to do the right thing. The problem starts, the genesis of the whole problem starts from the issue of election, the way they get into into government. A lot of things goes into it. We can't, if we start today till tomorrow, we'll keep talking about it. You look at.
And I think that's one of the major problems that we often talk about it.
Of course.
So what do we do beyond talking about it? What then does the average Nigerian do? The average Nigerian feels helpless.
Yes.
But also in our own way, we enable what the situation we're in now. Before looking at governance, for example, looking at people at the top, you go to the average Nigerian, you feel like the average Nigerian, you're a little conscious because you feel like somebody is trying to take advantage of the next man. So is it that is in our blood? Because whatever we're complaining about at the top as well, we see happening in offices, on the streets, the person selling at the kiosk. We find that those problems that we have at the top,
that's the problem. That's why I mentioned that concept, the active citizen concept.
Right.
That we need, being active citizen is not just about asking questions alone. It's about you knowing the right thing. Just like one of the sage that actually defined education, he said education is knowing good and doing good, and that defines the people called active citizens as well. They know the right thing and they ask the right question. Let me quickly give you, there is a project Accountability Lab is actually pushing.
Right.
They, instead of naming and shaming people, they name and fame people. The difference between the two is they both name, but one fames and the other shame. So now what they do is, okay, how do we improve governance in such a way that we actually fame people, so that people can see example of good people being praised, not so that it won't be that we just criticize all the time. So let's spotlight those people that are doing well and make them an example for those people that are doing bad. So these are part of the things that we as citizens, we need to understand that the change begins with us. Although I don't buy into all those when the government, people in government are saying the change begins with you. You want to kill us? The change begins with us to pay. We pay for this, we pay for that, we pay for everything.
Right.
So we shouldn't be at the receiving end all the time. But when it comes to changing the narrative of democracy, making things work, it has to begin with us. It's because these people, they don't really, we are not being hard. We are not taking the right steps. A situation whereby COVID-19 money is being embezzled. When you write a letter, I write a letter, and like 1,000 letter actually landed on the same table.
Yeah.
You just have to do something. That's what active citizens do. That's what they do. Yes.
And I like that. That's a practical example, because oftentimes people call radio stations and we, rant and rave about some of these things, but we often ask, what steps have people done beyond just murmuring about it in our homes? But then we've also had people who have, done these things. And at the end of the day, there's a public outcry, but we seem to forget easily, and I think that's also another major issue.
Now, because once we have one major TV program, we forget about the whole thing. Yes, that's just it. That's the problem.
I wanted to ask you now. Mahatma Gandhi said, if we want to cultivate a true spirit of democracy, we cannot afford to be intolerant. Intolerance betrays want of faith. Now, two major areas that I feel that we're most intolerant: religion and ethnicity, which is where we are so diverse. Religion, you have people who say, for example, you are Christian or Muslim. Even when we vote according to
Let me interject you. Let me interject you on the issue of religion. Religion is not our problem in this country, in the real sense of it. We have people, we find the Nigerians who believe in religion, who believe in God. Even when we have yam on our table, when God has provided yam for us, we still believe that God can still peel that yam for us. That's to the extent to which we actually believe in God. But the truth is, if you look at Nigeria, there's no Nigeria that is driven by religion in the real sense of it. It's the politicians. It is when the time of election, it is because they want to get into the office. That's why they use religion to divide us. If you look at it, go and trace the issue of Boko Haram over time. You will believe that there is major factor that is driving that particular force is political. So, and so many other reasons, so many other issues that we have had over time. You realize that it is when politician comes up, it has happened in Oyo State too before. When politician comes up and they start telling you that don't vote for Keferi, you start saying on it. When Christian says, let's vote for Christians, and these are coming from a corner, an angle where politician drives. These are narratives they use to actually get to our heart. We all know what appeals to people. In my community, I know what appeals to them. So anytime I want to get through to them, I appeal to their emotion, and they believe that religion is one area you don't even try to touch, and that's what they use. They manipulate us using that. So it's not a matter of religion about Nigerians. It is the people that are using it as instrument to actually divide us.
Right, absolutely. All right. Just joining us where
I can hardly hear you. Hello?
in the time past, our saviors used to be, all the activists, the Janisa way you need, and even the show one end of the time. So, what are your thoughts on Nigerians? We forget how we progress and move on. How do we become our own saviors? As opposed to waiting for one person who's going to, because I think that this administration was elected on that day where people felt like, oh, a savior had come who was going to high hand get was still very benevolent, and put Nigerians straight. Where do we look to now?
Yes. Actually, I don't think that we need to look for any savior anywhere. Or as for our situation in Nigeria, I think we all need to take it upon ourselves as a duty to our nation, as a duty to democracy, as a duty to accountability, as a duty to saving the lives of our children, to take it upon ourselves to become active citizens. See, the failure of democracy lies on believing that an activist will be in the forefront. Until we remember that democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, we are not going anywhere. We need to understand that each and every one of us, we are citizens, we are part of the government, and it is our government. There was a day someone was telling me, we can't release government information just like that. I said, who is the government? I sparked up. I was angry. Sometimes we call it only anger. I was so angry. And I told the person, I said, this is our information in the first place. To start with, it is our information. And the person has never been nobody has challenged the person before. And I don't care. The last thing you can do is to ask me to leave your office. And I will walk out. But the truth is, I've actually had an impression. I've left a mark. That you need to understand that this information you are talking about is actually our information in the first place. So Nigerians should start becoming their own activists. They should start becoming their own cheerleader. We need to come together as citizens and actually defend what democracy offers us.
Absolutely. That's a great way to wrap it up today. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi John Olla, for being a part of this program, for talking to us today. What are you, I know that you do accountability and compliance at ActHub Africa. What exactly is your drive?
Okay, for us, we believe that when it comes to, before things can work for Nigerians, we need to actually ensure that government is accountable to the people. Before governance can work for the people, they must be able to account for it. And of course, we also work around the issue of environmental impact assessment. A lot of people, it is in between the project. A lot of people track projects, a constituency project of the government. But we believe that there is a missing link, and that is, what is the impact of that particular project on the people? It has impact on their health, has sometimes impact on their livelihood, sometimes even on the climate itself. A situation whereby you have petrol station in a residential environment. And that's yes, and also we have dumping grounds here and there. Dig down into the soil, you realize that a lot of people are actually drinking from that dirt. So these are part of the things that we are actually looking at. We are holding government accountable in terms of their projects they are doing and how they need to actually comply with what is contained in environmental impact assessment law. And that's what we do, so that we protect the environment.
Right. Well, thank you very, very much. We appreciate you coming to join us on the program today. For those who'd like to know more about you, they can go to www.acthubafrica.com.
.ng. Yes.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Do have a wonderful day.
And you too. Thank you very much.